Have you ever wondered if some medical tests, especially after the age of 70, might actually do you more harm than good? Most people think the more checkups, the better. But what if I told you that sometimes too many tests can actually create unnecessary stress, false alarms, or even lead to treatments you don't really need? Stay with me for the next few minutes, because in this story, I'll take you into the lives of two old friends, George and Frank. Both are in their 70s, both care about staying healthy, but the way they approach their health and the results they get are very different. And as you listen, you might just discover which path is closer to your own. By the way, if you agree with point number 3 when we get there, type the number 3 in the comments. I want to see how many of you share the same experience. Let's begin. Chapter 1: The Morning Walk. George and Frank had been friends for more than 50 years. Every morning, they walked slowly through the park near their homes. It wasn't a power walk, just a gentle stroll, full of conversation, memories, and sometimes silence. One morning, George looked at Frank and said, "You know, I have a checkup again next week. They want to test everything, my blood, my heart, even another scan. Honestly, Frank, it makes me nervous, but I don't want to miss anything." Frank smiled softly. "I used to feel the same way, but then my doctor explained something that changed my mind. At our age, not every checkup makes sense. Some can even create problems we didn't have before." George stopped in his tracks. "What do you mean? Isn't it always better to know more?" Frank shook his head. "Not always. Sometimes knowing more leads to worrying more, and sometimes it leads to treatments that hurt more than they help." This conversation sparked curiosity in George, and maybe in you too. So let's look at the 6 checkups that after the age of 70 may not always be as helpful as we think. Chapter 2: Test number 1: The Full Body Scan. George remembered when his cousin had insisted on a full-body CT scan. They found a small shadow in his lung. Panic spread through the family. More scans, biopsies, sleepless nights. In the end, the shadow turned out to be nothing more than scar tissue from an old infection. Frank explained, "Full-body scans often pick up things that look dangerous but aren't. And once a doctor finds something unusual, they have to follow up. More tests, more stress, sometimes even risky procedures. At our age, unnecessary radiation or surgery can do real harm." Tip: instead of routine full-body scans, focus on tests that are directly connected to symptoms or family history. Regular conversations with your doctor are often more powerful than scanning everything just in case.
Chapter 3: Test number 2: The Prostate Screening Trap. One day, George admitted, "I keep hearing about prostate cancer. Shouldn't I test for it every year?" Frank nodded slowly. "Here's the tricky part. Prostate-specific antigen tests can find cancers, but many of those cancers grow so slowly they never cause problems in our lifetime. The danger isn't always the cancer itself, it's the aggressive treatments that follow. For older men, surgery or radiation can lead to lifelong side effects like incontinence, pain, or impotence, and often the cancer would never have shortened their lives in the first place. Tip: after 70, routine PSA testing is usually not recommended unless symptoms appear or risk factors are strong. Talking honestly with a doctor about personal risk makes more sense than automatic yearly screening. Chapter 4: Test number 3: Mammograms beyond 70. Now let's talk about the women in our lives. George's wife, Aina, had been doing mammograms for years. She was diligent, careful, and sometimes anxious about every result. But after 70, the story changes. Mammograms can still find breast cancers, but many are so slow-growing that treatment may not extend life at all. On the other hand, false positives, when the test shows something scary that turns out harmless, can create enormous emotional strain and lead to painful biopsies. Tip: for women over 70, mammograms are not always necessary unless risk is high. The decision should be personal, based on health, family history, and conversation with a trusted doctor. If you agree this third checkup often causes more stress than relief, type the number 3 in the comments. Let's see how many of you have seen this happen. Chapter 5. Test number 4. Colonoscopies past the expiration date. Colonoscopies can save lives, no question. But after 75, the risks begin to outweigh the benefits for many people. Complications from sedation, bleeding, or even perforation of the colon become more common as the body ages. Frank told George a story about his neighbor Robert. Robert went for a routine colonoscopy at 76. He was healthy, no symptoms at all, but the sedation hit him hard, and he took months to recover his energy. The test didn't find anything dangerous. He often wonders if it was worth it. Tip: for most people, routine colonoscopies after 75 are not recommended unless new symptoms appear. Staying alert to changes in digestion, weight, or bowel habits may be more practical than testing in the absence of symptoms. Chapter 6. The test number 5. Heart stress tests without symptoms. This one surprised George the most. Even blood tests? Aren't they harmless? Frank explained, blood tests are useful, but too many can create noise. Small changes in cholesterol, vitamin levels, or kidney numbers often mean nothing. But once they show up, doctors feel pressure to act. That can lead to unnecessary medications or diets that complicate life instead of improving it. Tip: at this age, it's better to keep blood tests focused. Monitor only what's directly tied to known health issues, medications, or symptoms. The goal is quality of life, not chasing every number on a lab report.
Chapter 8. Beyond the tests, the real secrets of longevity. By this point, George was amazed. All my life, I thought more tests meant more safety, but maybe real health is something else. Frank smiled. Exactly. Health in our 70s is less about chasing diseases and more about strengthening what we already have. Here are the lessons Frank shared, based on research but lived out in their daily routines. 1. Move every day, but gently. Walking, stretching, or light yoga keeps joints alive and energy steady. No need to run marathons. 2. Eat for simplicity, not complexity. Plenty of vegetables, enough protein, healthy fats, and water. Less sugar, less processed food. 3. Protect the mind as much as the body. Reading, socializing, learning new skills, even telling old stories keep the brain young. 4. Sleep without guilt. Rest is healing. A consistent bedtime matters more than sleeping fewer hours with stress. 5. Laugh often, worry less. Emotional health matters as much as physical. Friendships, community, and small joys protect against decline. 6. Ask the right questions at the doctor's office. Instead of, "What more can you test?" ask, "What test will truly change how we treat my health?" Chapter 9. The Sunset Conversation. On one golden evening, George and Frank sat on a park bench. Children played in the distance. The air was cool, the world calm. George said quietly, "You know, I feel lighter. Maybe I don't need to chase every shadow anymore. Maybe the real checkup is inside my own habits, not just in the hospital." Frank patted his shoulder. "That's the wisdom of age.
Longevity is less about fighting death and more about choosing how to live fully each day. Call to action. Now I want to turn this back to you. Out of these 6 checkups, which one surprised you the most? Was it the full-body scan, the prostate test, the mammogram after 70, the colonoscopy, the heart stress test, or the endless blood tests? Pick the one that hit closest to your own life and write it in the comments. And remember, if you agree that checkup number 3, the mammogram after 70, creates more stress than peace, type the number 3 below. I'll be checking to see how many of you share that same perspective. If this story made you think differently about aging, hit the like button and subscribe for more conversations like this, because every week we share new stories, new science, and new hope about living long and living well. After all, aging isn't just about adding years to your life, it's about adding life to your years.